Welcome to the third part of this lesson, and we're going to be practicing the skill we just learnt. So it says complete the following providing full working. Find the equation for the image of the curve with the equation y equals f of x, where f of x is equal to 1 over x under a translation 3 units in the positive direction of the x-axis and 2 units in the negative direction of the y-axis. Now, there are two ways of thinking about this. Part A, or the first way of thinking about it, A, is what I'll call just the really simple way of doing it. And we'll learn more about this soon. So if we know that the graph we're starting with is y equals 1 on x, and then we know that it's a translation of 3 units in the positive direction of the x-axis, well, that's simply 3 right. And then also 2 units in the negative direction of the y-axis, well, that's 2 down. We already know what the new graph is going to look like. The new graph is simply going to be y is equal to 1 over x minus 3 minus 2. We already know that. And it's great that we know that, but we also need to learn this new procedure to get that same result. And this new procedure, although it seems a bit laborious at the moment, is really going to be beneficial when we get more complicated questions and we have reflections and dilations and translations all happening at once. This procedure is going to be really useful. So let's now go through that procedure. So this is A way of doing it, this is B way of doing it. The first thing we do, we write down x, y. So this represents a point on our original graph. We then go x dash, y dash. This represents a point on our newly transformed graph. We then rewrite this. We know that every point on our newly transformed graph is going to be x plus 3 because it's 3 units in the positive direction of the x-axis. And we know that every point on our new graph is going to be y minus 2 because it's 2 units in the negative direction of the y-axis. So what we have just said is x dash is equal to x plus 3 and y dash is equal to y minus 2. The next thing that we do is rewrite an equation that tells us this. So we're going to write x plus 3 is equal to x dash. So I'm saying this is equal to this, and now I'm going to say this, y minus 2 is equal to y dash. I now am going to solve these for x and y. So x is going to be equal to x dash minus 3. So what I did there to get that is I simply subtracted 3 from both sides. And then I'm going to do the same over here. And I'm going to end up getting y is equal to y dash plus 2. So that means what I'm going to do here is I'm just plussing 2 to both sides. That's how I got to that. Now these two equations that we just found are very important because now I'm going to substitute them into my original graph. Now we know that the original graph was y equals 1 over x. I'm now going to sub these into this. So y, well, I know that y is equal to this. So into the y spot I put y dash plus 2 equals 1 over, into the x dash I put x dash minus 3. X dash minus 3. I now solve for y. So I'm going to get y dash equals 1 over x dash minus 3 minus 2. So what I did there to get rid of this plus 2 on this side is I minus 2 from both sides. Then the very last thing that I do is I simply get rid of the dashes. So that goes away and that goes away. This now is my final answer. And as you can see, this is the same as this. So you're probably thinking, why on earth did we go through this very long way of doing it? As I said, it's going to be very useful when the questions get more difficult. Okay, let's go through another example here. So this says, let me get my highlighter out. Find the image of this after a translation of 3 units in the positive x direction and 2 units in the negative y direction. Okay, how are we going to do this? We start writing out what we know. So you write this out first. Then you go here. We're rewriting it. We know that x dash is going to be equal to, well, it says a translation of 3 units in the positive x direction. So it's going to be x plus 3. And we know that y dash, it says 2 units in the negative y direction. So y minus 2. We then make our equations. This is equal to this. X plus 3 is equal to x dash. And this is equal to this. Y minus 2 is equal to y dash. we now solve for x. I'm going to get x is equal to x dash minus 3, and here y is equal to y dash plus 2. These equations that we have just created are very important. We're going to be subbing them into our original graph. Our original graph is given right here. It is y is equal to 3 over x minus 1 plus 2. So into this y spot, I'm going to put y dash plus 2 equals 3 over, into my x spot, I'm going to put x dash minus 3, x dash minus 3. So I'm putting that into that spot right there. Remember, you still got a minus 1 and a plus 2 on the outside. I now am going to solve for the y. So I'm going to get y dash is equal to 3 over, this is going to be x dash, negative 3 minus 1 is minus 4. Then I'm going to minus 2 over to the side here. Now this is important. When I do that, I'm going to minus 2, this goes away, and these go away as well, so I'm not left with anything there. And then the last thing I do is I simply get rid of my dashes. And that right there is going to be my final answer. That is my final answer right there. Perfect. Let's now look at this. So we're now going to go through a quicker way of doing this. It's kind of like through inspection, just doing it a bunch of times. This is just a far quicker way of doing it. And it's also something I want you to recognize. So when we are doing transformations, so in this case, translations, and you're doing translations in the x-axis, if we think in terms of function notation, when it's translations in the x-axis, we're replacing our x with x plus or minus a certain value. And when we're doing translations in the y-axis, what we're doing is we're plus or minusing a value to the function itself. So we're either replacing x with x plus or minus a value, or we're plussing on to the function itself a certain value. So let's now go through some examples here and be referring to this. So firstly, find the image of y is equal to the square root of x after a translation of 2 units in the positive x direction. Let's just stop there for a moment. So this is describing a translation 2 units in the positive x direction. So that means we're going to be substituting into the x spot x plus or minus a certain value. So we know what it's going to be is y is equal to the square root here, and into the x spot, I'm going to be putting in x minus 2. Because it's 2 units in the positive x direction, and we know that we have to change the sign. And then the second part of this question says 4 units in the negative to y direction. Now this is much easier. All you have to do here is minus 4 to the function itself. So that right there is our first answer. Let's now go on to the second one that we've been given, which says find the image of this after a translation of 7 units in the negative x direction. Okay, so what are we going to do here? So into the x spot right here, I'm going to be putting in x plus 7, and all of it is still squared. So into the x spot, I put in x plus 7 because it's 7 units in the negative x direction. And then the second part of this question says 8 units in the negative y direction. This is much easier. We're just going to be subtracting 8 from the function itself. And that right there is going to be our answer. Okay, let's now go here. These ones are just a little different. And what makes these ones a little different, as you can see, the function that we're starting with is already kind of transformed in a certain way. So here we have 3, and that 3 means it's dilated. Doesn't really affect us for our purposes. So here we have a translation of 4 units in the negative x direction. So I take my function, and into the x spot, I'm going to be putting in x plus 4, square it like that. And then what I'm going to do after that is 2 units in the negative y direction. So that means I minus 2 to the whole thing. So 4 units in the negative x direction means I replace my x with x plus 4, and then 2 units in the negative y direction, I subtract 2. Let's come to the next one. Here I have y is equal to, let me just do this. So after a translation of 2 units in the negative x direction, so negative x direction means I'm going to replace my x with x plus 2. Then remember, I've still got a minus 5 here, and I've got a plus 1 out here as well. And then 3 units in the positive direction. So that means I'm going to plus 3 here. So I'm going to get y is equal to, now I just need to gather things together here. 2 minus 5 is going to be minus 3. And then I'm going to get plus 4. Perfect. Now we come to the very last one of these type of questions, and I really want to do this one slowly because this is, I feel, a very important question that lots of people are going to mess up. So it says, find the image of this after a translation of 2 units in the negative x direction and 7 units in the negative y direction. If you want to, I'm just going to show you the way I think people are going to mess this question up. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a partition here. So we're starting with this. And then it says a translation of 2 units in the negative x direction. What I think people would do in this situation is go y is equal to the square root of 5x. Well, it says 2 units in the negative x direction. I'm going to plus 2. And then 7 units in the negative y direction. That means I'm minus 7. And then they would kind of walk off, very proud that they answered this question. But that is wrong. It is wrong. Why is it wrong? Because remember, what you're doing here, so let me just rewrite it. I've got this 5. What you're doing is you're replacing x with, if we come up here, what you're replacing x with is x plus or minus a certain value. So as we come back down here, what I'm replacing x with is x plus 2. So I'm coming here and I'm replacing it with x plus 2. And let me just do this. That's what I'm replacing it with. And you can see 5 is times by this whole thing, x plus 2. And then on the outside I have my minus 7, yes. And then I could expand this. It's going to be 5x plus 10 minus 7. That would be my answer. So it's very important to realize what's happening here. And if you are still thinking, oh, I still don't quite understand it, let's go through the long procedural method and it will kind of make things clear. So we've got this. Whoa, what happened there? Let me just quickly, if I go Control Z. Oh, okay. Everything just messed up there for a second. Oh no, I think that just moved. That's right, like that. Let me just quickly show you how we could do this. So we've got this, this, this. So we're doing the long procedural method here. We've got that. I know that my x dash is going to be x minus 2. My y dash is going to be y minus 7. I then create my equations. Then I solve them for x and y. Then I take my original graph that I've been given. And into the y spot, I substitute this. Into the x spot, I substitute this. As you can see, look what I'm doing here. Brackets, x plus 2, close brackets. Now I solve for y and I drop the dashes. If I wanted to, I could expand out that 5. And as you can see here, this is the same as what we got here, 5x plus 10 minus 7. So hopefully that shows you the importance of being very careful when you do use the quick way of going about this. Look at this, be careful, and just make sure you don't make any silly mistakes. Okay, there's one more part to this video and then we're all done. I'll see you there.